I'm Allie Zendrian, the editor-in-chief of Brand News, and this is the Financial Services News You Might Have Missed podcast. This is where I uncover news gems that might not have gotten their full chance to sparkle, and I dust them off a little bit. I'm joined by my trusted co-host and, more importantly, my personal financial advisor, Brandon Galisi of Galisi Financial. Brandon, I missed you last week. I hope you guys had a fabulous trip. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing really well. Yeah, my wife and I celebrated our 5th anniversary, as you know, and some of the listeners, if they've been tuning in the last several weeks. So we went to Cabo San Lucas. That was our first experience specifically there, and had a little bit of rain. There was a hurricane off the coast, but overall not too bad. And beautiful resort, beautiful area. It was a lot of fun. So coming back rested and refreshed and ready to roll.
I'm very happy for you guys. Good for you.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Cool. I wanted to mention before we really get started that the point of this podcast and why I started it in the first place is for the two of us to discuss news that we likely haven't heard elsewhere, which is why I spend my Thursday mornings scouring Business Wire looking for fresh news. But I should give credit to CityWire for this first piece that we're talking about. But I found it. I figured that you would have fancy feelings about it. Turns out, apparently, I have more fancy feelings, but well, we'll see what happens. So the first piece of news this week is from Robinhood. In the note announcing this, Robinhood said, "We've heard from active traders that they rely heavily on social media to navigate the markets," quote unquote. This new system will allow Robinhood users to chat with each other while making trades and also get access to, again, quote unquote, some of the market's biggest power players who aren't on Robinhood, including hedge funds, insiders, and politicians. I feel like you're going to team me up for this one for my fancy feelings, but I'm going to send it to you just in case.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I definitely have some fancy feelings on this one too, but you were like, oh, I've got it. I've got some. So I definitely will share mine, but I absolutely want to toss it back to you first.
All right. Well, my fancy feelings on this one. So it was sort of twofold. So one point was basically, I mean, I could understand how this could be helpful for people to share things that they find, or you're not really sure what's going on. How do you find this information? Somebody points you in the right direction. That sounds pretty good. But I could also see this being an echo chamber of investors who don't really know what they're doing. So in that case, I don't know how you vet out Joey over here has no idea what he's doing, but Susie Q over here does, and I should listen to her versus... So that was one fancy feeling about it. And then my second was basically, are there any safeguards in place that would prevent basically the next GameStop from happening? At least from the little bit that I read, I don't know. I presume that there are. I'm probably not the smartest one in the room, but those were my fancy feelings.
I love it. And I love the way that you said, especially the first one, where it's an echo chamber of investors who may or may not know what they're doing. And I think right before we recorded, I said something to the effect of could end up being the blind leading the blind, which is, again, you said it much more eloquently, which is why you're the communications expert, but overall the same sentiment. And yeah, I think that could be. I mean, how do you tell if someone is quote unquote good or not good? And even if it's like, someone has their scorecard or there's a track record or something baked in, that may be from skill. It could be from luck. I mean, so we don't even know, like just because performance is good doesn't necessarily even make someone a good investor. The extreme example that I love to use is say that you put your entire life savings, go to the casino and put it all on red and it hits. Was that a good decision? No, it still wasn't. It worked out, yes, right outcome. But even in hindsight, you could look at this from a risk perspective of, that was ludicrous. And you should never, I don't say always or never a lot, but never put your life savings on any color or number at the casino because you could lose it all in 1 second. But just because it hit, now everyone's like, this person's a great gambler. No, they're not. They got lucky one time in this, again, hyperbolic example. The very same thing is true. Like good investors have to be measured over the long run. Even hedge fund managers and portfolio managers, you don't look at their year-to-year performance. You have to really zoom out because you could throw darts at a board, pick some individual stocks, and outperform the market in a particular year. You could also get destroyed and massively underperform. So in the short term, it's a lot of luck, and I think it's going to be tough for people to vet, like you said.
Yeah. So I think that you made another good point ahead of the podcast of, so you're better served keeping long-term investments versus I heard Bobby over here told me to sell blah, 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 because I could make 50 cents on it. But I screwed up everything else in the process. So I wonder to what extent that's going to, have ripple effects for people's finances.
I mean, if someone's trying to truly build long-term wealth, copying someone else's random individual stock or options trades is just not it. Again, if someone wants this to be more of a fun account and it's more social, honestly, this would be closer to almost a sports betting type of account if someone's really going to try to trade it like this, which isn't inherently wrong in and of itself. It's, again, if you're risking too much money that you can't afford to lose, or if it's your long-term money, that's when it becomes an issue. And I want to even go back to the point that you made about what kind of safeguards are in place to prevent something like a GameStop or even just market manipulation. Because if enough people are getting in and saying, hey, we have to buy XYZ company, and they have a large enough following, well, they know by saying that they can effectively front run, which I think that's the technical term, but very similar to what Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, what he did. He would get into a penny stock, call people, this is at least my understanding, knowing that if he drove enough volume, supply and demand says price is going to go up, himself and his top investors all sell, and that's classically called a pump and dump. So what kind of safeguards are in place? That's a huge question to ask. Obviously, I don't know the answer either, but that could be very dangerous if we get into market manipulation.
I'm going to assume I'm never the smartest person in the room, so I'm sure that there are safeguards. I just am not aware of them from the little bit that I read. But for people who might be concerned, is there a good way to tell based on chats or whatnot, or I guess your performance, whether this situation is working out for you or not?
Again, especially if we're looking at a super short timeline, like you could invest in that one stock that one trader suggested and it could work out, and you'd be like, oh, this is great. And then the next 10 picks go to zero. It's just really tough because investing is one of the few things that effort doesn't necessarily even increase your probability of success. With most things, if you work hard to build a business, for example, like we're both doing, if you work hard, if you're working diligently, consistently, you have a higher probability of being successful compared to if you're not working diligently and consistently. Like, I think we can all agree with that. But when it comes to just simply more trades, it may or may not. Like you could have way more effort and then actually do worse. So the fact that the two aren't linked makes investing more challenging. Because we could think, oh, we should follow this trader. They've had 2 good trades in a row. They could have gotten totally lucky, like we pointed out. Or same thing, someone could have 2 bad trades in a row and be like, oh, I never would follow them. They could be the best investor in the world. So it's almost impossible. The long story short to your question, I don't know, and it's pretty much impossible to tell.
Okay. Well, at least it wasn't a financial advisor. It depends.
Right. I did not lead with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So our second bit of news this week caught my eye. It had a really great press release headline. So shout out to Bret Pacheco, CPA. So he was saying that the billable hour system is inherently flawed, and he built a new model 18 years ago that combats this. So his fixed fee model is, quote unquote, designed to foster trust and vulnerability. That's what it mentioned in the press release. It also calls out firms inflating their time billed to justify their fees, which personally I have fancy feelings about. So I was curious how you feel about this.
Yeah, so I loved this, like as I was just reading through, and specifically even the reason. So again, advisors especially love to argue fee models till the cows come home. So we're not even necessarily getting into that debate. But the problem that he was solving for, and from reading the article, and I haven't really ever done hourly like this, and for a very similar reason, is I really like asking why money's important to you. What was money like growing up? Like, and genuinely asking those questions, because it also then helps me when we do start to bring in the number side, of course. But if I felt like every single minute, basically, I'm billing you for this call, we got to jump straight into the quote unquote meat and potatoes of it. And now it's much more callous. It's much more focused solely on the numbers, not necessarily factoring in the emotions. Because now if I'm asking why money is important to you, are they like, okay, is he just trying to skirt the work that we're trying to pay him to do, or does he genuinely care? So now you've got potentially that going through the mind, even if you're well-intentioned. And again, I think that's what Bret realized clearly 18 years ago. So now he shifted more to that flat fee model, which I'm a huge fan of. In my firm, I do AUM, but I also do a subscription service on an ongoing basis where I don't even necessarily cap how many meetings someone can have with me. And a big reason for that is this. I didn't want people, also I didn't want to nickel and dime people. Like feel like, let me send an email. How much is that going to charge? Like I want so far away from that model.
Yeah.
The empathy side. So yeah, what came up for you?
Well, it was interesting that you brought up not wanting to nickel and dime people. So that's exactly the reason. So I do, in some cases, do hourly work, and it's the same thing. I bill based on 5 minutes, but only because literally if you're going to it took me 2 minutes, and dividing into, it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it. So I understand the frustration from the standpoint of people inflating the amount of time that they spend with a client and things like that. Definitely, I appreciate what he's trying to do there. I thought that it was interesting though, what you said though, about if I'm going to get into deep in the weeds conversations, I don't really have the time for it. It almost made me think, well, why, if you're getting paid by the hour, why wouldn't you, let's just sit down and luxuriously talk about all your feelings about money, because hey, you're making how much money per minute that you're doing this. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And again, I think it just depends on the industry too. I mean, the hourly work that you're doing, you're not necessarily needing to know what someone's childhood with money was like. Again, I'm not saying that you're not also building relationships in that model, but it's maybe a little bit less than when we're talking, again, about personal finances, I think that's where it muddies a bit more. And also, again, I know that you're not nickel and diming either. So again, I feel like the classic attorney, for example, that will just,
definitely,
like, how do I get a bill for this? Right. Which can be frustrating. So no, as I was going through, I was like, oh, this is awesome. At least from my experience, it seems like a lot of CPAs don't necessarily have a model like this in mind. It's just kind of a lot of times charge for tax prep, and that's it, where there's not necessarily planning, but there's also not expectations set. Anytime there's expectations or lack of expectations, it's going to be tough to meet anything.
Yeah. Well, also teeing you up. So eventually you're going to have tax level services. So look out for the news from this guy, and we'll see what kind of model you come up with.
Yeah, super excited. Just passed the third and final part of the EA exam yesterday and submitted all my stuff to the IRS. So it could take them, I think I was telling you, up to 60 days, hopefully sooner than that. But then officially I'll be an enrolled agent. So more news to come.
So last point that I wanted to make, do you know who also has real conversations about money and really encourages that through a podcast?
Couldn't guess. Tell me. I'd love to know.
Carl Richards does a fabulous job with that, with his 50 Fires podcast. Yeah, so just saying, if anyone hasn't heard that before, you ought to go listen to his podcast. It's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. I've that podcast for me is sometimes I'll pregame a client meeting or a prospect meeting just listening. And I think the point that I was just making would seriously be hammered home if someone goes and listens to the 50 Fires podcast. Like, imagine that, but in the hourly model would just be tough, because you can tell how much Carl genuinely cares and how much engaged every person is in those conversations. Again, listen to Ali, go listen to it. But if it's hourly, I feel there could be that just ever so slight seed of doubt that creeps in. Does this person actually care, or are they just trying to run up the clock? Again, even if you could be the most well-intentioned. Yes, I feel like that really hammers it home. Yeah, go check out the 50 Fires podcast too. And it's wonderful.
We love you, Carl.
We do.
Our third piece of news this week is from Charm Security, which is an AI-powered scam defense platform. It's partnering with a national nonprofit, providing free mental health services called Give an Hour. This partnership is starting this month, which is September. It's Suicide Prevention Month. But how the partnership is going to work is Charm is going to add experiences from scam victims, their family members, and other people into its AI model training. The hope in doing this is that it's going to break what they call the scam spell. So basically how awful people feel once you've been caught in a scam and whatnot before things escalate, and help try to protect people from scams. Personally, I thought that this was really impactful. I can imagine if you've been caught in a scam, just the feelings of, I can't believe that I did this to myself. Like there's just so much that goes into it, and it's so powerful. I'm glad that somebody's trying to put a halt to as much of that as they can. But
right.
Curious your thoughts, Brandon.
Yeah, no, I love this. And even just the different angle that they took to it, like where when you get scammed out of money, and it's almost always money, that is already a financial hit and impact. But a lot of times it kind of stops there, like, oh, that's a bummer, you lost X dollars. But I think incredibly importantly is the feelings, the emotions behind it of potential shame or guilt. Like you said, how could I possibly have done this? But and oftentimes too, and even if they're sharing the stories, if someone is negative to them, well, how could you possibly, like, that was clearly a scam. And if someone's, especially so if it's a loved one, even if it's well-intentioned, although that doesn't sound terribly well-intentioned, but it's still like that could really wreck you, right? And oftentimes, like I know someone who he was a victim of a scam and felt horrible. Like, not just, it wasn't even as much about the money, but just all these other things. And so at least what I tried to do in this situation was be as encouraging as possible. Like, look, this could have happened to anyone. Sure, in hindsight, does it look more obvious? Yeah, everything looks more obvious in hindsight, of course. That's the whole thing. But in the moment, I could totally see this. So give yourself plenty of grace. And I think that hopefully is the message that I don't think as many people get, but should get. And hopefully a tool like this can help with that emotional and mental health side of scams too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I doubt that they're listening to this podcast, but anybody who is performing scams, as we mentioned, so this is literally linked with Suicide Prevention Month, and it's doing that for a reason. So the fact that you could do something and make whatever amount of money you want off of a person, and it could literally ruin their whole life or end their life. Yeah. Maybe think twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen the show Scammer, or the YouTube channel Scammer Payback?
No.
Okay, so it's a massive channel now. I think they have over 1 million subscribers, but this is someone who, they used to call it scam baiting, where they would pretend to be typically an elderly person and try to like learn the scripts of the scammers, also make it entertaining. But he's taken it a step further, and they've actually worked with different authorities in the foreign countries that these scams are running out of, and they've actually gotten arrests to happen, and they've even stopped scams in the middle of the process.
Wow.
And on that show, they're constantly talking to about the emotional side of, look, it's not just about the money. Like, this victim is experiencing so much confusion, anxiety, and stress, and all the things that we were just talking about. If you haven't checked it out, it's also, I think, for the most part, kid appropriate. I mean, they sometimes the scammers will start cursing, but they bleep those out. But it's just really cool to see this movement, because he's got like a whole community behind it too, of just not only just stopping scammers because they're funny, entertaining content when he's doing it, but legitimately busting the money mules and all those that are involved with it, and returning victims' money, saving victims. Like, it's a both entertaining, but also incredible work that they're doing. So again, Scammer Payback, I'd suggest you check it out if you're interested.
I will put it on. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So the last piece of news for this week is from Ameriprise Financial. It's matching public donations from now through October 31st. That's going to go to Feeding America. The firm is going to match up to $250,000. And this money will help more than 47 million people, including 13 million kids, have access to food. Ameriprise has been doing this partnership with Feeding America since 2009 and has had a tremendous impact. I believe it's 141 million meals have been provided since then. Just wanted to shout out you guys for doing something amazing. No reason for anybody to go hungry. We can all do our part. Greatly appreciate that. Brandon, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I would just say too, like, I always love when there's a matching component to it as well, where it's, I mean, it would already be great if Ameriprise was just giving $250,000. That'd be fantastic. This is a great way to get so many more people involved. Still donate that money, obviously, and then some, because you're getting people involved too. So I think just from top to bottom, just a really cool program.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for another fabulous week. I look forward to next week. So not this upcoming Monday, but the Monday after that. Make sure that you listen to the Brand Stories podcast. Yeah. There's something special in there for you.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Allie.